Newcastle United have been having an unreal season, one of the most consistent teams in the league and continually showing why that is the case. Sitting on the brink of Champions League football, they're having their best season since the Shearer days. It's quite a sight. It's been about a year and a half since the takeover and only 3 transfer windows have taken place. I made a video discussing the timeline of the takeover and the potential ramifications that could arise from it at the time, and we were already seeing its effect in full swing back then. The club swapped hands in late 2021 and were pretty down bad at the time. If you guys need reminding of their form table for both halves of the 21-22 season, here's a quick recap. This is how the table looked after 19 matches. Newcastle sitting with 11 points in 19th place, which is, well, it's not great. But this is where it gets interesting. Here is how things would have looked if the season began after match day 19. 38 points, 3rd place. Almost quadrupling their points tally and turning everything around. Anyone want to take a guess as to when the takeover was finished? Just before the halfway point of this season. Their eventual 11th place finish was probably highly deceiving to anyone that just tuned in at the end to see how the final table looked. But after this current season, there can be no doubt that these guys mean business. In this video, we're going to briefly talk about the Magpies' rise over the past year and a bit, about what they've done right from the outside looking in, and about what they're probably going to do going forward too. With that being said, what's going on over at St. James's Park? Yo, what is going on everyone? Really hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe and welcome back to another video. This video was originally supposed to be a reaction video to the Newcastle 6-1 match a while back, but I had a lot more thoughts that I wanted to put out and a lot more information has come out since then. The crux of the video would have been the fact that Newcastle beat them so bad that Spurs couldn't in good conscience let their fans pay to watch them play that match. It's noble of them, I can't lie. But I really do hope they set up recurring payments though. It's what 5 goals in 20 minutes does to a team, I guess. It's still better than 7-0 though, which is wild to even say out loud. I can't remember the last time that a team went ahead and sacked a caretaker manager only 4 games into their time in office. What a time to be alive. We could go on all day talking about Tottenham Hotspur and the many problems that they continue to face this season as well, but we actually already did that like a month ago, so we gotta move on. Newcastle, on the other hand, have followed this victory up with 4-1 and 3-1 wins against Everton and Southampton respectively. Both teams are sitting at the bottom at the moment, but that doesn't discount their impressive form. 8 wins in their last 9 at the time of recording, including a 2-0 win against Man United. Least amount of goals conceded in the Premier League this season, a major domestic final appearance for the first time since 1999, consistently in the top 4 over the course of the season, and on the brink of making their first Champions League appearance since 2003. Newcastle's current situation, on paper, fully justifies the buzz around them lately. Since coming in only a month after the takeover, Eddie Howe has worked wonders. Fun fact, at the time of recording, he's the only Englishman managing a team in the top half of the table. I mean, Ryan Mason is technically the Spurs manager, at least until the end of the season, but they're not exactly playing like a top half of the table team, if we're all being honest.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
The fact that he's convinced the new owners to stick with him instead of going for a flashy European caliber proven coach is an achievement in itself. I mean, they did reportedly approach Emery before him, but that was almost 2 years ago. So long ago, it basically didn't even happen. That's how time works, right? Apart from the manager, a big part of praise for Newcastle has to be their recruitment. In the 3 windows that have taken place since the takeover, they've spent over £260 million on players, a large sum, with the largest being for Swedish striker Alexander Isak. A £63 million fee for the 23-year-old raised a couple of eyebrows when the deal went through, but he's been incredibly solid so far. He was unlucky with an injury at the beginning of the season, but regardless, he's managed 10 goals in 17 games. His second goal against Spurs was a real thing of beauty that solidified the unity in this team. The interplay between Trippier, Longstaff, Murphy and Isak was super slick, making the Spurs players look like training cones in the process. Also, his dribble before his assist for Murphy's goal versus Everton was nasty. Kieran Trippier is a signing that can't be praised enough. The first marquee signing since the takeover, and unless we all have selective memory, calls that he was only going for the money were rife at the time. The calls aren't so loud now though. The La Liga champion has been a much needed leader and cool head. Bruno Guimaraes came later for 40 mil and has since become another very important member. Now the investment has been very large at Newcastle over the past year or so, I think we can all agree on that. But we can't overlook the fact that players like Joelinton, who was once a laughingstock of a striker, is now performing at levels none of us expected him to in the midfield. 21-22 Newcastle Player of the Year, by the way. I guess maybe he's not actually the best example, seeing as he was bought for about £40 million at the time and broke Newcastle's transfer record, so maybe I guess now he's just performing to the level that he was supposed to be performing to all this time, just in a different role. He's still pretty impressive though, don't lie. Sean Longstaff, Jacob Murphy, Fabian Schär, Jack Grealish's least favorite player Miguel Almiron, and many more show that the core of the squad have been around the whole time. The levels all round have just been exponentially increased. And more importantly, the attitudes of the players that are already there, as well as the players that are coming in, have just all been stellar. Team players all round. This is a unit, and we can expect many more additions in the very near future. Now, all of that is incredibly admirable, and if we're to believe the words of co-owner Amanda Stavely, it's all going according to plan too. Newcastle was bought by the current consortium for about £305 million, which is a lot of money, but it's also an amount that becomes increasingly more significant when you realize that they've almost already spent that amount of money on player transfers alone. Sure, they have deep pockets, but you can also tell that they're not here to buy the club and then just pump as much money as they can out of it. This is a project that they want to build from the ground up, and if you take a look at where they were when they bought the club versus where they are right now, I say they're well on their way. In a panel discussion at the Financial Times Business of Football Summit in March this year, Stavely noted that the board has a 15-year project in place, a project that they believe will lead them towards winning everything under the sun in that time period. But they're not going to get there unless they expand their brand and play everything by the book. The first part shouldn't be too hard. It's probably not unrealistic to say that their performances in the league have already won them a couple of fans. Keep that up consistently, who knows where they could be. Spurs haven't even won anything in years, but the amount of fans that I saw pop up during the Poch era was pretty impressive. Good football will do that. Newcastle currently have film crews following them around, creating a documentary for Amazon. Now, I remember having a newfound respect for Sunderland when their Sunderland Till I Die documentary came out. Who's to say that this will be all that different? It's worth noting that Stavely has openly stated that this doc will cover more the commercial side of things than the football side of things, so we're not necessarily gonna get an all or nothing type deal here. But at the same time, this behind the scenes kind of look, it sounds like it'll be quite unique to things that clubs have given us access to in the past. So I guess we all have that to look forward to. A plan to potentially emulate the multi-club system that Manchester City has adopted has also been discussed. Stavely also noted that FFP was at the front of the minds of Newcastle's higher-ups for every key decision. Despite the very deep pockets that Newcastle have, they are restricted when it comes to what they can spend, seeing as financial fair play regulations are based on what the club brings in rather than what the owners have in their wallets. At least that's how it's supposed to work. I was looking at the Deloitte Money League 2023 report when putting this together, an annual profile of the highest revenue generating football clubs on the planet. Newcastle sat in 20th, which is unbelievably impressive on its own. If we zoom a little closer, we'll see that they sit in 11th in terms of the English clubs on this list. Charts like this really showcase the financial power of the EPL. Take note that a team's finishing position isn't necessarily reflected on this list. Leeds sit above Newcastle and Everton, yet they finished 17th last year. Man United finished in 6th, yet they are the third English team here. But with more money coming in due to a higher finishing position, a UCL spot, and the fact that they'll be able to negotiate bigger sponsorship deals, who knows what they can achieve. Many believe this club is overachieving right now, which is completely fair. We'll have to see more on a consistent basis to kind of see if this is a flash in the pan or not, right? But if this is truly their level, this early into the plan, we're in danger. On the subject of sponsorships though, even though it looks like things are on the up, That is quite a tricky minefield to negotiate for them right now. Good old Mike Ashley and his crew left very many parting gifts for the incoming office. We inherited very, very difficult contracts, including from Fun 88. We inherited contracts that were 6 years in length that were very much one way. We were limited by the way we could drive up commercial revenues. It was a really difficult time. Stavely said this in the same FT panel I mentioned earlier. All of this is to say that there is still a lot of work to be done, so we can expect many more changes. Despite their excellent position at the moment and the way they've been playing, the question of whether Newcastle is a Champions League ready team has been asked pretty frequently as of late. Now, this is increasingly concerning due to the intensity of their play. When these guys take to the pitch, they pretty much leave everything there. And while I agree with the sentiment that they're not ready for UCL, I honestly don't think it matters all too much at this current stage. Is their squad depth expansive enough to allow them to compete on every single front? Probably not. Do they have the quality, nerve, and experience to go far in Europe? Like I said, I'm expecting a busy summer from them, but all the same, probably not. Does everyone watching this expect them to level up from here? Be honest and consider the caliber of the old guard. Right, I know what you're thinking. Probably not. The expectations from Newcastle at this very moment and probably for the next couple of seasons will be nowhere near that of Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, etc. and etc. I never thought, in my career, in my lifetime, I'd be in a position to try to get Newcastle into the Champions League. I'd imagine that this sentiment of Sean Longstaff is shared by everyone that was around at the club before October 2021. They've already gone beyond the general consensus, and they obviously have ambitions to go further, but I rate, at the moment, they're more concerned with keeping it up. Now, I know that every situation is different and every club has their own circumstances, but just to take the cautionary route, I think right now is probably a good time to remind everyone about Leicester City and Everton, the last two teams to finish in the top 4 outside of the traditional Big Six. Traditional. Modern Big Six? I don't know, man. Whatever. Leicester won the league in 2016, and even though they made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League the next year, they finished in 12th. Everton came in 4th in 2005 and finished 11th the next year. Again, different circumstances, but still worth taking a look at, right? Technically, this is all possible for Newcastle next year. It is extreme, of course, but you gotta look at both sides, right? The potential positives and the potential negatives. However, given what these new owners have shown us so far, I'm not sure that this will be allowed to happen. Then again, only time will tell. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about this incredible Newcastle team and what they're potentially going to achieve over the coming years. Feel free to follow all the socials. Links are in the description. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.